it's the spooky season, and me and Will are coming to you with the films that you should watch this Halloween.
That's right. Recommendations. There's so many horror movies out there, and we're going to try to recommend good ones like The Shining.
Yep.
And
listen,
the
what's
Thing.
scarier than Steven Soderbergh's Contagion?
Ooh.
Time to watch it this holiday
I tell you,
season.
the ultimate horror movie is Congress. Am I right?
Are they going to be able to pass that bill? Will the progressives be able to hold the line? You're listening to Michael and Us.
That's right.
So what do you got for me, Will?
We're going to each recommend, 4 or 5 movies each, stuff that we like, and I'm going to start with a really easy one that I watched yesterday. Oh, yeah.
It's fresh. You're still spine tingling from the experience.
And this is not a very scary movie, but it's one that I've always kind of liked, and watching it yesterday, I liked it better than I ever have. It is not considered one of its director's greatest films, but I think maybe we should really reconsider that, because it's awfully good. It's called A Return to Salem's Lot from 1987.
Ooh, what a winner.
It is a Larry Cohen film, of course. Devoted listeners to this podcast will have seen his solid gold classics like Q, the Winged Serpent, The Stuff. But this is, a less well-regarded one. Into the 80s, after movies like this were really getting theatrically released, and this one is, I think it got some theatrical release, but it's direct-to-video, sort of.
I feel that Larry Cohen's 80s output, which is late 80s output, not very well regarded, but companies like Vinegar Syndrome, like Perfect Strangers, that's a great movie, and I'm glad that it's back out and people are watching it.
It's nice seeing this stuff on Blu-ray. You can see, I was going to say you can see how good it looks, but his movies don't look that good.
But, I
Sometimes
love the looks of their films.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, special effects looks great, I think.
What a great movie.
It's like, he doesn't know how to edit. Sometimes he does.
He knows how to edit.
Well,
I will argue against that
okay.
because he is working in a situation where whatever is in the movie is what he got by the skin of his teeth.
You know what? You're right. That scene in God Told Me To, when Andy Kaufman is in the parade
so
as the
good.
cop and he starts firing, which apparently he got by actually just going to the parade with Andy Kaufman and shooting it. Incredibly edited. This one, though, he had Warner Brothers money. Come on.
Yeah,
this
he
movie
did.
should be a little better edited
But it's
than
so
it is.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that it's looked down upon because people have a real affinity for the TV version of Salem's Lot, which was directed by Tobe Hooper.
Right, and which was kind of a cultural phenomenon at the time. This is the down-market sequel that has nothing to do with the original, really.
But what it does have is Michael Moriarty. Have we done an episode on Michael Moriarty?
Oh, we should.
I know, because I was like, I think
It
we
would
talked
just be
about
the
him a
Larry
lot, Larry
Cohen episode. Yeah.
But we would have to challenge himself because he acted in other
You're
stuff.
right, we
as
could talk about Report to the Commissioner or, I don't know, what else is
What
he
other
in?
Larry Cohen movies?
Bang the Drum Slowly he's in, too.
And it also has the great Samuel Fuller as a vampire hunter.
What a duo. What a buddy combo. So yeah, Michael Moriarty, the Kinski to Larry Cohen's Herzog. He's a Mondo filmmaker, basically. He's an ethnographic filmmaker who makes horrific documentaries. But he gets called back to America to care for his wayward son by his ex-wife. So he goes with his son to the small town of Jerusalem's Lot, which he finds is run by a vampire race. And they don't turn him into a vampire because they want him to chronicle their way of life.
What a plot. I want to watch Return of Salem's Lot right now as you're talking about it.
And the whole movie has this bemused comic tone.
Yes.
It's kind of consciously not scary. It's instead supposed to be kind of funny, but funny in a way that's is this supposed to be funny? It has this almost Twin Peaks feel to it.
Absolutely.
And Samuel Fuller shows up as a Nazi hunter who has run out of Nazis, so he's hunting vampires now. He and Moriarty team up, and I love that Moriarty gives probably his most normal performance in a Larry Cohen movie.
Very down key, yeah.
But Samuel Fuller is chewing the scenery and having a lot of fun, and it has that weird musical score, and there's just there's an unsettling, dreamlike ambiance to the film, but also quite funny. There's nothing else like this movie.
Oh, it's so good.
And then you go online and you see it's 4 out of 10 on IMDb because all these fans of the original are
well, this isn't a direct sequel to the Tobe Hooper version.
No, it's imagine David Lynch, but kookier.
Yeah.
It's like a Bazooka Joe comic version of a David Lynch movie.
It's like Werner Herzog saying, it's Larry Cohen. I can't do a Werner Herzog impersonation. It's like a Bazooka Joe versus, fake Kung Fu currency.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go down the Stephen King alleyway as well of kind of less regarded films based on his work. And I have Silver Bullet. Now, if you're my age, you probably saw this on TBS because for some reason it played all the time. And it's one that's kind of disregarded, which is crazy to me because I think it's super fun. It stars Corey Haim as a wheelchair-bound kid who realizes that somebody in his town is a werewolf. It's based on a very thin book that Stephen King did called Cycle of the Werewolf, where the gimmick was that the werewolf only comes out every month. And so it was a calendar book. It was meant to be a calendar originally.
Well, with the full moon, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that like it has amazing art in it as well. And the movie version, it's a Dino De Laurentiis production. It was very troubled. Don Coscarelli was supposed to direct and write it. There was rumors that he directed a few days and got fired, but according to this Blu-ray, that is not the case. And you have such an amazing cast of character actors in this film. You have one of the greatest Gary Busey performances as the kid's uncle, who like Corey Haim gets on his side to believe there's a werewolf coming after him.
By the way, Gary Busey, underrated as an actor.
I agree. Very underrated as an actor and kind of overshadowed by the kook that he became, which a lot of people would say that, after he had a really bad accident.
Yeah.
And then it kind of followed that.
But it's like Klaus Kinski is held in such high regard.
Yeah, why isn't Gary Busey?
Yeah,
and like the director actually does a commentary on on Silver Bullet, and he talks about how like all the best moments Gary Busey does were improvised because he actually made a relationship with like Corey Haim, and they were friends, and like Corey Haim looked up to Gary Busey. It also has an infamous werewolf design done by Carlo Rambaldi, and basically every story I've heard of Carlo Rambaldi doing special effects, he just screws them up and they don't work, because he did King Kong, did E.T., which did work, but he also did Possession, which supposedly like wasn't even what he brought because he didn't have anything. And on Psycho the werewolves were not only very complicated, like they barely worked, but also they look like teddy bears, so they try to like cut around it. But you know what? I like it. It's like a big guy on stilts wearing a werewolf costume attacking people. It has a bunch of Twin Peaks cast member. It's weirdly violent, and it has people like Lawrence Tierney showing up as well as the bartender in the film. So it's a delight. And even looking at the back of this box, it has a Jay Chatway score, the guy who did all the William Lustig movies.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, this film, undervalued, and just like Return of Salem's Lot, it actually had a release through Scream Factory, so it's as good as it's ever going to look. What else you got for me, Will?
Well, I'll bring up one of the most popular Italian horror films, but not necessarily one of the most respected, which is Lamberto Bava's Demons.
Oh, I love Demons.
I love Demons, and I'm recommending this one. Just like give it another look. Just throw it on. You will have a good time. It is a zombie outbreak in a movie theater. It is incredibly tacky, no socially redeeming value,
Very fatalistic as well.
but just so flavorful. This is a movie you can watch it with a whole bunch of friends. This is a movie you can watch it alone.
It's
You can
called
watch it in the
Party
theater.
Movie. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So much good stuff. So many beautiful images. So many incredible gore effects. This
It's a movie that has it all.
Yeah.
Great heavy metal soundtrack, as all the VHS boxes said, which is like heavy metal soundtrack by Ozzy Osbourne, Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah, and there are certain of those Italian directors, like, you go to Dario Argento for the very beautifully choreographed murder scenes. You go to Lucio Fulci for that particular dreamy mood and ambiance. And then you go to this one because you want a big slice of greasy pizza.
Yeah, specifically Lamberto Bava's Demons. Don't try to go into the other Lamberto Bava films because it's diminishing returns. I have one here that's actually a little bit off the beaten path. This is like an art horror film. It's actually, there's no dialogue in it. It's a Canadian one, and it's called Three Dead Trick-or-Treaters. It's an anthology film directed by Toran Langan. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. And it's like a real moody, like no-budget piece. Some of the shorts were stuff he had done before, and he kind of put it together into one feature film. And it's definitely not one that I recommend you watch with other people, because they'll be like, what the heck is this? But it's one that you sit by yourself and you just vibe with it. And there's really nothing like it.
I love that feeling.
No dialogue, just kind of like take it in. And the Blu-ray company Videonomicon, which I'm a big fan of, Canadian company that put out Ryan's Babe and Ogroff the Mad Mutilator.
And Science Crazed.
Yeah, Science Crazed. So they've done excellent work. They actually did a big special edition of the film with like commentary.
Oh man, if they put it out, that's all I need to hear.
Yeah, so it's definitely a lot of fun. What else you got, Will?
Well, I'm going to talk about another favorite auteur, Jess Franco, the man who made over 180 films. And I'm going to talk about his 1973 film, The Erotic Rites of Frankenstein.
Ooh, isn't this one that's not liked very much?
I can't imagine not liking it. This is a movie. I would say this is a good entry point Jess Franco movie.
Really? I remember it being very weird.
Oh, it's very weird. And it's got a horror element. It's got a sex element.
Yeah.
It's got everything you could want in a Jess Franco movie. And it's 74 minutes, folks. The movie takes place after Dr. Frankenstein's death. There are two characters who are trying to control the fate of his monster. There's Frankenstein's daughter and a wizard named Cagliostro.
Wait, there's not an Orloff walking around either?
What you need to know is that Frankenstein's monster is played by a big, beefy guy. He has black jeans, and his skin is painted silver. And
There's a bird person walking around too in that movie, isn't there?
correct. And there's a weird jazzy score.
I mean, it wouldn't be a Jess Franco without a jazzy score.
There are weird colored lights. There is a flagellation scene that you will always remember. 74 minutes long. I don't know. It's like there are certain Jess Franco movies like female vampire has the mood. It has that mood you linger in. This one has some of that mood, but it also just has like a lot of really fun stuff.
And if you think, oh, you know what, I'll make it a Jess Franco double bill. I'll double bill. Of course, Roddick writes a Frankenstein with Jess Franco's Dracula. Don't do it.
Count Dracula, boring.
Boring.
One of the first ones I ever saw.
Yes, and there's a fun experimental documentary. What is it called? It's like
Oh, I can't remember.
El Vampire. No, that something like that.
It's on the Blu-ray.
It is, and it's cool. So if you want to see it with that context. But yeah, I would not reach for Count Dracula. I have a slasher film here, directed by a horror director who doesn't get talked about too much, Jeff Lieberman, the guy who did Mystery Science Theater 3000 classic Squirm, which he was not pleased by of that movie showing up on that program. You know the one with all the worms? You remember that one?
I know the VHS box very well.
And Just Before Dawn is a slasher about a bunch of people that go in the woods and they just get attacked by some hillbillies. And it's just great. It like lets the characters build. There's actual suspense. They're picked off one by one in kind of gruesome ways. And I have to say, it has one of the greatest end kills of the final survivor, killing a slasher movie character that you will ever see. I've never seen it recreated in any slasher film other than Just Before Dawn. I thought I knew it pretty well, but I watched it with some friends a couple weeks ago, and we had a blast watching it. We were like, oh, that's actually like a great movie.
Well, I need to recommend at least one movie where comedians are scared by a man in a gorilla suit or by some spooks
You're
and
using
shivers.
that word comedian very liberally by the people that are in this film.
Oh, they're pretty funny. I'm talking about 1954's The Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters.
Now, in terms of Bowery Boys meeting creatures films, where does this rack up? Because there's a bunch of them, isn't there?
Well, I have to say I'm not an expert. I
Okay.
actually think they met fewer creatures than, for example, Abbott and Costello did.
I mean, they were meeting them left and right in films that were not very good.
Well, Abbott and Costello. So Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters, obviously a ripoff, shameless ripoff of those Abbott and Costello.
Is it a
monster
Bodine
movies.
joint?
It is an Edward Burns joint.
Not familiar with Edward Burns.
Oh, you are, because he was one of the Three Stooges' greatest directors.
Oh.
He directed Brideless Groom. He directed The Three Stooges in Orbit.
I need to go get my notes because, like, when we did the Three Stooges episode, I had like little biographies of like this director, they were more violent. This director preferred this.
Jules White's more violent.
Okay.
Edward Burns, yeah, he's considered one of the good ones, although he's not that good. Let's face it.
Yeah.
He also did Queen of Outer Space with Zsa Zsa Gabor. So
okay.
an incredible body of work. I love Edward Burns. And this movie, I mean, what do you need to know about it? You got Slip and Mahoney. Those are the two characters played by Hunts Hall and Leo Gorcey. Why did I even say that it's Hunts Hall and Leo Gorcey?
When you said their names, I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard the Bowery Boys name because you just call them Hunts Hall and Leo Gorcey every time we talk about them.
Folks, longtime listeners, do you remember when we did a Poverty Row episode a long time ago? Like, it was in the 90s, I think. Like, number
Not the
90.
years, we have not been doing this for 25 years.
Number 90, we watched Ghost Chasers, and we were like, this is fucking shit.
Yeah.
How are these guys popular? Well, now I love the Bowery Boys.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten better.
No, they haven't gotten any better, or one would argue technically funnier.
But I love
a
'em.
smile on your face, right?
And this is the one to watch if you watch any of them. Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters. There's a robot. Ooh. There's a gorilla. Is there a Frankenstein? I can't remember.
Is there some like Abbott and Costello like shtick where they like, secret walls and stuff like
Oh,
that?
of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Ton of that shit. It's in a haunted house. They end up at a
Love
haunted
it.
house. Justin, you got to watch this movie.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen it. I definitely got to check this
You
out.
should. You would enjoy this movie.
So I have a new release from Arrow Films here, and this is one that is interesting for a couple of reasons. It's called The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch. And oftentimes when I see these titles that Arrow puts out, I'm like, have I seen this Japanese one? Like, they all kind of blend together. This one is great for the reason that I had not seen it. It is a gothic horror film about a young girl who goes and lives with her parents after being an orphan for a long time. Something weird's going on. Her sibling, is she a snake woman? Which is illustrated by like horrifying special effects where like her mouth is open and she has like snake teeth and she has these like Dali-esque dreams where like these snake people come after her. Also, there may be a silver-haired like witch lady that lives in the attic and is killing people. But what's really cool about this is that like this is the only other film, I believe with English subtitles, directed by the guy who did all of the Gamera films. This was his only like attempt at a non-Gamera picture that got like a wide release. So that's cool. It even has a David Callett commentary track, the guy that's like the king of Godzilla stuff, because he knows what he's talking about. So yeah, highly really short too. It was only made because they needed a B picture from one of their yokai movies. So they're like, all right, let's make this really fast. Who's available? This guy. Let's get him in there. And you can feel it's a passion project because like he never got any other opportunity other than this one.
Finally, I'm going to recommend a movie by one of the great auteurs, Mr. Bill Rebane.
Wait, who's Bill Rebane?
Bill Rebane is a Wisconsin-based filmmaker. He made such films as The Giant Spider Invasion, Rana, The Legend of
Shadow Lake.
Shadow Lake, that was it. Monster at Go-Go, who could forget that one? Giant Spider Invasion is his Citizen Kane, obviously. And he's still alive.
Yeah, and do not go to his blog, I would say.
I'm not crazy about his politics, but that's okay. What I care about is the art. And as an artist, he's in a league of his own. And one of his most unusual films is 1987's Blood Harvest. And what's good about this one is that Tiny Tim is in it.
Tiny Tim himself?
That's right.
He's a tiny fellow, right?
Folks, does that name mean anything to you, Tiny Tim?
No, probably not.
He was a novelty singer who, he was not tiny, actually. He was quite tall.
Yes.
And he would sing in a falsetto. And when he got married on The Tonight Show, 40 million people watched it.
He was huge. And Bill Urbane said that he would go to like shows and people would go nuts for him. Jerry Lewis nuts.
Okay, imagine though, you're in rural Wisconsin, wherever the hell Bill Urbane lives, and you're making a movie and you've got a big star, and it could be Alan Hale Jr. in Giant Spider Invasion, or it could be Tiny Tim. Think how excited people would have been.
So excited.
Hollywood never came to rural Wisconsin, or wherever that was. Anyway, this movie, it has a plot. You know, a woman comes back to her rural hometown. She has a new boyfriend, finds out her parents are missing. Her friends keep disappearing one by one.
Who cares? All that matters is Tiny Tim, horrifying looking in clown makeup.
He has an amazing screen presence. What's also unusual about this movie, a lot more gore and nudity than the typical Bill Urbane.
Well, Bill Urbane was very uncomfortable with that stuff. He has a religious bent to him, if you will.
Well, I mean, all that matters is what's up there on the screen. And this...
very disturbing and off kilter. I mean, Arrow put out a box set of Bill Urbane films, and they're not like the big hits. Like, it doesn't have the Giant Spider Invasion. It has the other ones, and what you want is kind of like that murder drone feeling. A kind of, we've talked about this before, Stephen Thrower's a big fan of it, of like that like hazy, like right on the edge of falling asleep filmmaking.
And also just like Bill Urbane, his movies don't like they're aping Hollywood movies. They want to sell like Hollywood movies, but they are rural productions. They're regional productions.
Yeah.
They just don't have the polish, and that's what's beautiful about them.
So finally, I want to go classy with my last movie, and I'm talking about Edgar Allan Poe's Haunting Fear. Wait, is that the Roger Corman film that has a similar title? No. I'm speaking of course, the Fred Olen Ray film from the 90s.
I came close to recommending Evil Spawn.
Evil Spawn.
Just because I watched it recently.
But Haunting Fear is actually probably, in my opinion, one of Fred Olen Ray's most accomplished films. It's serious. It's not like goofy or like winking at the audience. And it stars Brinke Stevens in, essentially I said it's Fred Olen Ray's Repulsion. Take that as you will, if you know Fred Olen Ray.
It's probably better.
Yeah. And what's great about it, I mean, it has a cast. It's Brinke Stevens, Karen Black, John Michael Vincent, probably in a chair most of the time and drunk.
Okay, some years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I saw Karen Black do a one-woman show in Toronto. And then afterwards she was interviewed on stage by Bruce LaBruce. Bruce LaBruce mentioned Trilogy of Terror, I think it was, that she was in. She said, I always kind of regretted doing that movie because it kind of put me on a path to doing a lot of horror movies.
Like Haunting Fear?
I mean, I'm sure that was an exception. I'm sure she loved working with Fred Olen Ray.
I mean, this back copy was clearly written by Fred Olen Ray because it says, Michael Berryman, obviously, Hills Have Eyes, Robert Quarry, Count Yorga Vampire, Robert Clark, Man from Planet X. Of course, that's just for me and Will. When we see that, we're like, hey, Robert Clark from Man from Planet X.
Yeah, hey, Fred's right. I know who that is.
And Haunting Fear is also, it was always kind of like fuzzy in VHS, but Fred just put it out on his label, Retro Media, in a brand new scan of the picture. It comes as a collectible trading card, which shakes in the case. Not a big fan of that, but obviously a new audio commentary.
I'm not a fan of that shaking in the case either, because you order from Retro Media, you get them, and you think,
oh no, the disc is
the disc is loose. It's got scratched.
And it also has, of course, most importantly, signed by someone. I didn't even know this until I just looked at the back. Brinke Stevens signed the back of this.
Oh goodness, I just got that collection he put out of that TV show, which, does she host it, I think?
Oh, I don't know what it's called.
Okay, hang on. I'll come back next week and tell you what it is.
Yes.
And it's signed by her.
I love that MakeFlix website because it's like basically J.R. Bookwalter, who I'm a big fan of already, but I'm going to be honest, I already own every Blu-ray he's put out of the movies he's directed. Just partner with Farrell and Ray, and now I don't have to order through Amazon.com, which used to be the only place to get retro media releases, and they're popping up there. So I got Evil Toon Scalps, all the collection of Farrell and Ray stuff.
You want to know how you've influenced me over the years?
Oh, no.
I have those movies too now.
Happy Halloween!